And the fact is, the experience, it's like, say, for instance, when I was coming up, people had a tremendous respect for art. And one of the things that people in everybody's homes that they were proud of is their music collection. Mm-hmm. It was art. You want to hear Miles Davis, Dizzy Gillespie, The Supremes, Marvin Gaye, whoever, you pulled it out and you carefully put it on the turntable. Yes. Or if you had a CD, it was still great because you had liner notes. You know who wrote it, who arranged it, who was BMI, ASCAP, who's got the publishing. Mm-hmm. It was a story. It's like looking at a Renoir, Cezanne, Picasso, Jack Pollock, whoever. That's art. And we're now disrespecting.
And the liner notes were usually written by somebody famous, influential.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Who knew the background.
Yes.
So it made that whole experience more complete. Here's something that I really analyzed for myself. I said, when I was a kid, I still remember the first record I bought, and I bought it because I was a space junkie. The movie Forbidden Planet, and I liked Star Trek before Star Wars, And there was a song on Motown that the beginning started with an oscillator sound. It went doot, 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 doot. And that song was a Supreme song, Reflections. And I said, oh, that's some space stuff. I got to buy it. And I bought, my first record was a Motown record. But the thing is, what we used to have was a encapsulated memory in our brain, which is the deepest part is the hippocampus. And we think about the fact that I remember that day. It was a sunny day. It was summer. I remember that moment when I bought it or when I went into the record shop. And there was a lot of people at Tower Records or Virgin Megastore or whatever, Strawberries, whatever big record chain you went to, or the local mom and pop. It was an experience, and it was part of your life.
How you started in the business?
Wow. After I graduated from college, I went to a radio station, WNEW-AM in New York, and at that time they still had vinyl, and I worked with all the DJs, so I was responsible for getting the playlist from the music director, and then going into the music library, pulling each song, stacking it, so that when the DJ came in, all he had to do was grab his stack and go in. He knew what he was going to play, because he didn't have a choice of what. I think he had one song per hour that he could play on his own. Everything else was in a rotation that he had to stick to. I handled the fan mail for all the DJs.
Wow.
And at that time, I'm young, and I didn't know that I was working with all these famous people, because it was a MOR station, so middle of the road, and they were playing Shirley Bassey and Barbra Streisand and Frank Sinatra, and I worked with, people are sending fan mail to William B. Williams, and I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
Julius Rosa, Gene Clayton.
These were legends.
These were legends, and I had no clue. The way I grew up, you don't call adults by their first name. So I'm being very Mr. Clay, Mr. Wick, and they're like, no, call me by my first name. And at this point, I'm not seeing myself as an adult, because I'm just graduated from college, so it was just funny. From there, all the people from the record company would come in and try to promote their records, and that's how I got the first taste of a record company and what they do. And seeing it in Billboard, and I really didn't have an interest in staying in radio, but I said, oh, maybe I'll try a record. And I happened to tell the guy at Atlantic, hey, if you ever have any openings, I'd like to come over. And he then told me, like 2 days later, there's a job opening as a secretary. I went to college. I'm not going to be a secretary. I'm putting my nose in the air. And they said, you better go over there and get your foot in the door, which is what I did. And I moved up and stayed there like 13 years.
Wow. At Atlantic. Wow.
Yeah. And then segued over to Warner Brothers in LA.
So you left Atlantic in New York and came out to LA and worked at Warner Brothers. Mm-hmm.
I never felt unwelcomed. I never felt out of place as far as my job or music. And that confidence comes again from your skills and knowing and being prepared and working, being there on time, being there every day. I mean, that shows a different type of professionalism, and not just any, that there's anyone, so therefore you gain a different kind of respect, regardless of who you are.
And I get all sharp and everything. I just cannot wait. Meanwhile, I'm telling my friends, I may be in the music business. They tell me, man, the music, you know how much you'll make? They start you off at $1,000 a week. I said, really? Whoa, I cannot wait. I'm on 52nd Street and Broadway, and I step on a guy's foot who had on cowboy boots, and when I looked up, it was James Brown. Scared me to death because I'd heard these horrible stories how James could be not the nicest guy you'd want to meet. And he held my arm and he said, everything is going to be fine for you today. Don't worry about it. I took that as a sign. I'm getting this job. Oh man, James Brown told me I'm getting a job. I go to the place I'm told to go to, and it's a luncheonette. I don't even know if some people watching this will even know what a luncheonette was back in the day.
Yes.
For all intents and purposes, it was a kind of fancy place to go have lunch. Not even fancy, malt, hamburger, and that was basically
A little diner.
a diner. Yeah, you got it. So I walk in. Incidentally, the place is right next to what is now the Ed Sullivan Theater. It wasn't even called that back then. So I go in and I'm like, man, this doesn't look like a place that record people would eat. All this money I'm thinking I'm getting ready to make. And I see this guy slouched over at the counter looking very impatient. And I'm on time now. So I kind of look around. I don't see anybody that looks like they're record people. So I walk over to this guy. I said, would you happen to know who Marvin Schlack is? He said, yeah, I do. I'm Marvin Schlack. I said, wow, how lucky. I said, well, were you waiting for us to have a table? He said, no, we're not going to be here that long. So I got like a little offended and said, oh. He says, look, I don't have a real lot of time. I don't have a lot of time. So I want to know, when can you start? And I said, wait a minute, start? Aren't you going to ask me questions? He said, I just did. When can you start? So I'm thinking to myself, something's not right here. This doesn't seem like it's going according to Hoyle here. So he's got that New York kind of vibe about him, and I'm like, I don't want to say the wrong thing, don't want to say too much, but I'm thinking, he just told you, you're not going to be here that long, you better make this work. So I said, well, maybe if I'm not being a little overbearing here, can you tell me how much I'm going to make? He said, well, I was thinking 150. I said, 150? He said, what's wrong? You want 125? I said, no, we'll do that. And I got hired right then. I started a week later. As a matter of fact, I started working for Florence. It was 2 days after Martin Luther King was assassinated.
Wow.
I will never, ever forget it.
Wow.
And just to kind of add a little flavor to it, I knew nothing the day that I started there. As I sit here today, it was, without my plan, the best thing that could have ever happened to me because I had no idea what was ahead of me.
And I'm like, I think I can do this. That's what really spurred my thoughts about getting into the music business. And I remember one of the promotion guys said to me, oh, you won't be in that business because you don't know anybody and you've never done it before. And I'm like, oh, dude, you really don't get it. Like, you tell me that, I'm getting in the business. So I flew down to LA on my own dime. And I called some people because at that time we had such clout, because people wanted to play their records.
Right.
So I'm like, I'm using the record side of this. Bless their hearts. A.D. Washington, I set up a meeting with. Gerald Busby, Gene Riggins, and Sharon Hayward. And Sharon Hayward, I think, was my third one. And Gerald Busby, everybody kept saying, have you set up a meeting with Sharon? Yes. And they all met with me just because they wanted to make sure their records were played. But everybody kept referring me to Sharon. And so when I got to Sharon, she says, I would have never thought about you. I see you in radio, but, I wouldn't thought you would do records. She said, kind of like out of sight, out of mind. But now that you're in my face, I can see you doing the record business. And so, if anybody here, we all know Sharon, she was very to the point, succinct, and was like, I need you to put together a plan. And if you can put together a plan and send it to me in 3 days, then I'll consider you. Because she had already been interviewing for this position, and she said it was a product management. The music industry was just getting into product management. I had no clue what it was, had no idea what product management was, so I say, oh, I can definitely do that. Not a problem. So I go back to the radio station, I call all my contacts, I finally find a friend who says, I'm going to send you a marketing plan, and I created this group called Taste. And I put it on a Hershey's bar. I took the Hershey label off. I wrapped it with this label said Taste. My assistant at the time had great calligraphy. I said, write this out, Taste. I created this whole concept that we'd go to 5 different markets and we'd do taste testing while they sang and this and that and the other. And I loved it. I take it to FedEx to get it to Sharon. I tear up my brand new 280ZX. I run into the back of a guy going down the hill trying to get to the FedEx place. I was like, okay, I gotta make this. I'm gonna make this time. So I get out the car, I play girl. I did play my whole feminine thing, like, oh my God, I can't believe I hit you. He had a big tank, didn't do anything to his car. And in those days, the Z was so long in the front, it backed up the front of my car. It was still running. I was like, well, if you're fine, can I go? I gotta get to FedEx. He said, sure. I went to FedEx, sent off the plan, went to the mechanic, told him I messed up my car, could he fix it? I'm thinking to myself, I have got to get this job. There's no way I'm not gonna get this job after that. Sharon calls me. This was the funny thing, and I didn't know how flamboyant the record business was, or entertainment was, because I was in radio. Next thing I know, I get a call. There will be a car that will pick you up at 8 a.m. for your 10 a.m. flight to fly down. And then when you get to the airport, you'll see a sign. It'll have your name on it. It'll bring you to Virgin Records. Then I'm like, oh my God. So I call my mom. I'm big time. They sending a car for me. I don't even have the job yet. So she'd be like, ooh, what kind of job is that, right? So we get into all that. And so that's how I got in the record. I ended up meeting with Sharon, Jeff Aroff, and Jordan, who ran Virgin at the time, and didn't know anything about the business. As he said, it was a very complex business. I was thinking, oh my God, they have to do the artwork. There's a production team. I knew nothing. But I said to myself, I can do this.
I think one of the most significant things that ever happened in my career was when MS took over CD 101.9 in New York, and after being there for about 2 or 3 years, they fired me. It was a horrible day, but it was one of the best things that could have ever happened to me, because that's what led me to be able to come to Los Angeles, to go from market number 1 to market number 2, and to spend the bulk of my career in the 2 biggest markets in the country. That's pretty unbelievable. But when they fired me, it was God's timing. Dave Kaz, a very talented saxophone player, who's a very good friend of mine, called me and he said, I heard you, what happened at CD 101. I was so sorry about that. He said, but what good timing. Because they had just offered him the morning show at the Wave here in Los Angeles, which was like the same format as CD 101 in New York. And he was looking for a co-host, and he told his people, boy, I wish I could get Pat Prescott. He said, but she will never leave New York. And he talked me into coming, because I really wasn't going to come here. I got an offer from D.C. That's where I was going to go, D.C., because my brother lived there. My mom had moved back to Hampton at that time. I was dating somebody in New York, and all my best friends were there and everything. So I said, no, this is better. I got an offer from Chicago. I was like, no, too cold. I already had that. But I came out here in February for the interview at the Wave, and it was 70 degrees. We went to Santa Monica and had lunch at Ecugenie, sitting there with the Pacific Ocean right there. And, and then Dave made all kinds of promises and stuff to me. And one of my best friends, she was living here, my friend Denise, and she says, you can come stay with us, and we've got rental property, and you could live there. And it was almost like God was just opening the doors saying, you need to come to LA, and this is where I've been for the last 17 years.
And we're so happy you're here.
I like to dress. She said, all right, so they like you got the job. I'm like, okay. And then from that point, I think, no lie, that first year, I think I worked every weekend, because I didn't know what the business was, and I wanted to get in it and do a great job. So I would come in when I didn't have to, just to understand what production was and what a production meeting looked like, and what timing was, and what the A&R guy. I didn't know anything. All I knew was the promotion meant. I knew there was a record and they asked us to play it. Everything behind the scenes, and if you understand product management, that meant you had to be on top of all of those things. That was my entree. I worked that whole first year just to get an understanding of all the complexities of the music business. And it was funny, because I don't think I ever really liked music to that degree. I liked all the elements. I liked that I could wear this to work and nobody would say anything. And I liked to see an artist that I was able to take, and they had a bag basically off the bus, and then you take them and all of a sudden they're on the MTV Awards or the Soul Train. So for me, I like the music, but I'm not a music aficionado. Like, there's some people who know every song, every beat. I'm like, no. I like the transformation. I like the creation of. I like that there was a lifestyle that was afforded to you that kind of just fit my natural rhythm. If I had to wear a business suit every day, I would just lose my mind. So
And then you started doing voiceover. What did you start when you were at BLS?
Yeah, I started when I was at BLS. The first really big voiceover job I got, ironically, is one that I now have again, and I'm very excited about it. I don't know if you're familiar with a TV show called Night Flight that was on the USA
Yes.
Network back in the 80s.
Yes.
It was a show that was on Friday and Saturday nights. It was all night long, one of the first cable shows that did music. Actually, even preceded MTV with doing music videos, and we do what they call takeoffs to video. And I was the narrator of Night Flight. One of the producers of the show, Cynthia Friedland, heard me on WBLS, and she said, that's the voice I want
Wow.
for Night Flight. I had never heard of Night Flight. I didn't know who she was. I did not really come from the rock world, which was what a lot of what they did, rock and punk and all this other stuff. But yeah, I was always open to an opportunity, and they hired me. I did the show for 8 years.
My voiceover career, it started, like I told you, with Dark and Lovely, and then I would get a little something here and a little something there. And then the 80s, Burger King was one of the products that Uniworld advertising agency, they had this.
And Uniworld was a big, and still is a big black advertising agency.
Right. They got the account, and it was a $30 million account.
Wow.
And they called me in, and they asked me to audition. And so I beat out everybody else. I got the account. They gave me this $30 million voiceover account. Now, I didn't get $30 million.
Right.
But that was what they were paying the advertising agency for the account. And I ended up doing Burger King for about 8 years. I did all of their the television and the radio for the ethnic market, for the black market, and that went on for about 8 years. And that was when I really hit it big in voiceovers, because my voice was on all radio stations and TV stations and things like that.
I also did news at WLIB while I was there too.
Wow.
I've always, did news and did a public affairs talk show, because I've always felt like I wanted to be able to do more things.
Yes.
That has helped me a lot through my career.
When things change, you can
That's
still
true.
have a job, because radio is musical chairs. 1 minute, you're up. The next minute, we've decided we're going another direction.
Exactly.
So,
But that's been good for me too on the formatic side, because a lot of people associate me with jazz, but I've done a lot of work in R&B and in pop also. While I was in New Orleans, I worked at one of the top rock stations there for about 6 to 8 months. That was about all I could take, and I went back to WYLD. But that was a great opportunity for me, because it's something I could put on my resume and something that I then had experience with. And I think that being able to to do more than one format, to be able to do talk shows and conduct interviews, and to be able to edit and put a public affairs show together. The fact that I can do all those things, I think, is a reason why 40 years after I took a sabbatical leave from teaching, I'm still doing this thing.
And how did you transfer from the factory into promotion?
A guy named Jimmy Cheers, who was the promotion guy before Wendell Bates. They wanted to hire a black CSR, customer
And this
service
was at
rep.
Capital EMI.
Yes, it was.
Yes.
hmm That's how I got into sales. Somewhere Larkin had a part in that also.
And
Working
Larkin was head of Capital,
of
the black music
Black
department.
music as it was, A&R.
He actually gave Marvin Gaye a huge payday, went over to Columbia,
Luther.
Vandross,
The
but
group
he
out
did
of
a lot
Boston.
at Capital. He brought in Natalie Cole, the Silvers, Tavares, Mays, Frankie Beverly and Mays.
Taste of Honey. We were happening in 77, 78. And he saw that I was working in the factory. He's like, hey, we got to get you out of there. And so he helped promote me.
Wow.
Yeah, my parents were very good friends with his aunt.
Oh, okay.
So like I said, it was all friends. And knowing someone somehow.
It's good to know people.
Exactly.
Oh, wow. What were some of the things that you learned about radio because of Hal, the shows?
That people can be very fickle. Because Hal was who he was, people always treated him with the utmost respect. But I saw how other people were treated. You have to be nice. nice to be important.
But it's important to be nice. That was one of his
And he
mantras.
was always nice, and even when people weren't nice to him, well, he'd let you know if he had a problem with you.
Well, he also was of that belief to put time on them. If
Put
they
time on it.
did something, put time on
it.
them.
And I know of a lot of different things that happened, and he would just say, put time on it, and things would happen. People, there was one person who was going to the airport to fire him, and they got to the airport and had a heart attack and died.
Yeah, Hal. There was a special thing around Hal when people messed with him. Things would happen.
They'd lose their jobs. I mean, I
Things
saw
would
it.
happen.
I
Yeah,
saw
you don't
it.
mess with God's child.
No, you don't.
That I really believe that God had his hand on Hal.
He did.
Where is the fit for the record business now? Because it's almost like, why are they needed? You know?
I have a great answer for that.
Tell me.
Okay, first of all, even though that anyone that has equipment in their home can load up to Spotify, Rhapsody, and all these different aggregates, Apple Music, let me explain something to you guys. Those Spotify, Rhapsody, and all those people, they get about 500 submissions a day globally. So you think about, why do some people have a lot of streams and some people don't have? So the way those people at those streaming services have figured it out are, there's a lot of streets out here. If you take a city, they put you in neighborhoods where there's no traffic. You are on a nice little side street. You're in the system, but you're on a side street. So what you want to do is get on the big boulevards, Fifth Avenue, Avenue of the Stars, Sunset, Wilshire, where there's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. The Hollywood Freeway, 405. How do you do that? We have to hire someone that has the internal relationship with those people, that knows their language, that is politically savvy within how they work, that knows how to tell them what the status is of the record on the charts.
So would that
publicity.
be a promotion person?
That would be a internet marketing person. The record company is basically a bank. And if they believe in you, they will spend the money to market and promote your product at radio, at the internet, publicity, support your tour, live shows, the whole thing. You need that. And most people are underprepared. They think, I've seen superstar artists that will leave a label, have a beautiful recording studio in their garage, and say, oh man, I just cut a hit. Great. You send your record, ship it to all the radio stations. Unless you have someone speaking for you, their language, they're not going to play it. Michael Jackson can come back today. If they don't hire a promotion person, or Prince, our biggest artist, you're not going to get anything.